Advanced Residential Applications and Case Studies. Chapter 3, The Valuation Process, page 13. Terminology. Before we move on to the next section, here are a few terms we need to discuss here in order to establish a common understanding and foundation before we get to the next section. Interim use. In some cases, it may be clear that the highest and best use is likely to change in the foreseeable future. However, due to economic factors, the market may not be ready for the new ultimate highest and best use. Interim use, that's highlighted, is defined as the use contemplated by the market participants that the subject real estate can be put to while waiting for certain subsequent factors to occur. Examples include farming the land in a developing area, waiting on sewers to be available, or establishing a used car sales lot until the demand for retail uses is strong enough to support a new facility. Many times, these are used to defray holding cost expenses. For instance, real estate taxes. Interim use is a temporary use to which a property is put until it is ready for its ultimate highest and best use. Examples of interim uses are parking lots, temporary buildings, some farms, and old buildings rented on a short-term basis. A residence could be an interim use on a site zoned for commercial use. Legal non-conforming. A legal non-conforming use, that's highlighted, is defined as a use that was lawfully established and maintained, but no longer conforms to the use regulations of the current zoning, sometimes known as a legally non-conforming use. That's highlighted. This is often called a grandfathered use. A legally non-conforming use can be either an under-improvement or an over-improvement. An example of an under-improvement is a single-family residence in a commercially zoned location. An over-improvement example is a duplex that does not meet minimum lot size or parking requirements on a site now zoned for one unit. Probability of rezoning. An appraisal assignment that assumes a zoning change is typically complex assignment. To complete such an assignment, there must be a reasonable probability that a zoning change is possible. Some of the things to be considered in doing this analysis are as follows. Land use trends. Does the general plan call for the proposed use in the area of the subject? Local political attitudes. Are local officials supportive of the proposed change? Costs of rezoning. What are the legal costs involved? Time. How long a period is required to get approval? Cost-benefit analysis. Does the value added by the zoning change justify the costs involved? The appraiser must clearly state the assumption that the value is based on an assumed zoning change. Support for the appraiser's belief that there is a reasonable probability the zoning change will be approved must also be provided. Excess land and surplus land. Excess land is defined as land that is not needed to serve or support the existing use. The highest and best use of the excess land may or may not be the same as the highest and best use of the improved parcel. Excess land has the potential to be sold separately and is valued separately. Excess land is distinguished from surplus land because excess land can be sold off, while surplus land cannot. Surplus land is defined as land that is not currently needed to support the existing use, but cannot be separated from the property and sold off for another use. Surplus land does not have an independent highest and best use and may or may not contribute value to the improved parcel. Surplus land is a situation where the site is larger than the typical site, but not excess. An example would be a house that straddles the line between two lots. In this case, neither lot could be sold separately unless the house was moved onto one of the lots. Theory of consistent use. The concept of consistent use is defined as the concept that land cannot be valued on the basis of one use while the improvements are valued on the basis of another use. Most often, an issue for interim or transitional uses of land. For example, a property in transition from one use to another cannot be valued on the basis of one immediate use for land and another use for improvements because to do so would be inconsistent with elements of valuation. The improvements must enhance the value of the land. A dwelling that may have many years of remaining life for residential use could not possibly enhance the value of the land for which the immediate higher use would be a service station. This is sometimes referred to as the theory of consistent use. That's highlighted. With non-conforming properties, the current use is always, yes, always different from the highest and best use as if vacant. This is why it is a non-conforming use. In the case of non-conforming properties, land and improvements must be valued under the same ultimate highest and best use. The land is valued as if vacant under the current zoning. The contributory value of the improvements is determined by deducting the land value from the total market value of land and improvements. Highest and best use, if vacant, is determined first. Then, the theory of consistent use is applied, not the other way around. End of page.